Welcome back to Manders, Calling a Man's Answer show every week. If you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to me on your favorite streaming platform to stay up to date with the show. This is episode 45 of Noah Lewis, audio only because we did it in person. Still got to figure out how to do the camera work in person. Noah Lewis is one of my good friends. He is a basketball player at Pacific University and is going to be the new host of the show, The Underdog, in which they bring on people who have an underdog story to tell.
Actually,
in person,
back, man.
Actually, in person this time. We did it through Podbean. Didn't even see your face last time.
Right.
Yeah, dude. So we were talking about you starting your own podcast. You want to just start? Well, first off, for people who are, what was I going to say? For people who are not new to the channel but know me but haven't listened to my old stuff, just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do.
Gotcha. I'm Noah Lewis. I'm a basketball player here at Pacific University, where you go, where you're a kicker. So I play basketball here. Yeah, I'm just getting my feet wet in the podcast game a little bit. My roommate Ethan Moss, and then two of our buddies from home, Trent Mayfield and Dalton Wildebrod. We had this idea of creating something like called the Underdog Pod, and basically, so it's going to be a podcast, and we're basically going to have people on the show who consider themselves to be underdogs
or overrated,
underrated.
Oh, okay.
And basically you just talk about, they're going to come on and like talk about how they're underdogs, or like what their underdog story is, right? Because everybody has a story of how they got to where they were, right? I have my story, you have your story. Like everybody has a story of how they are where they're at or getting to where they want to be, kind of thing. And we're just kind of trying to find people who think they got it out the mud, so to speak.
Yeah.
And just kind of hear what they have to say, listen to their story, and then basically we're going to clip those small clips together and put them out, and then we're going to put, videos and everything like that on YouTube.
How long are you thinking
Audio
for
on
this?
SoundCloud. What's that?
How long are you thinking for your episodes?
Episode-wise?
Yeah.
Probably like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
45-minute episodes. Just chop it up and then split it up a little bit like that.
Smart.
We've got some big plans of some big guests of who we want to bring on. So
yeah, I was talking to the other Noah, not this Noah, about some interesting people that you could get on. Who are you going to keep it in the sport realm, or are you going to just do anything?
So that's the beauty of this idea, is that you can be an underdog in any industry, right? Like I might be an underdog on the basketball court, you might be an underdog on the football field, right? But I mean, let's say someone's an underdog and they're an accountant.
Yeah.
Someone's an underdog and they're
Shout out Randall.
But they're like in the film industry,
Yeah.
or let's say they're an underdog in the music industry, or like the reason why me and Ethan didn't want to just do it on our own, and why we added Trent and my buddy Dalton from home, is my buddy Dalton from home, he's a model for VNY models in New York City. So he knows a bunch of people in that industry. Trent's super involved in like the film and music industry, and he knows a lot of cool people from LA and whatnot. So we're really just trying to have some variety, because we don't want to just target one market of people. We want everybody to be able to like listen to our podcast and be like, all right, yo, this is dope.
That's
Go
sick.
from there. Yeah.
The cool thing about that specific area too is for podcasting is there's like a split between the podcast. So like it's mainly niche specific, and so there's people who will will come back every episode just because of that specific idea,
right?
Right. And keeping it like 45, that's like perfect timing. Like that's what most episodic specific like niche podcasts are. So like there's this guy Mark Savant, and he has this podcast, and he I communicate with him once in a while, and his is the After Hours Entrepreneur, and I think he does like 35 to 40 something, and he brings on people, and he does it, I'm pretty sure, through Zoom.
Right.
So that idea is it's gold, bro. And the cool thing about it is too is like you don't have to especially if you post clips like you're gonna say like you're doing, you can post the best
Absolutely
things on. Yeah, that's cool. And then I can have each of you guys on in your own specific realms, and you guys can promote yourselves too.
That'd be great. Yeah, we'd love to. We'd love to.
Definitely. See, that's another thing about I hate. So I've talked to Bobby. I helped Bobby out a little bit with his podcast. And Bobby's is he's like a comedian, so he has his own little thing. And he does Bobby for Real. He does it on Instagram Reels. But like my shit's not even really a podcast. It's really just really a conversation. And I bring people on, and they introduce themselves, and they say who they are, and then I kind of just like let them market themselves, and so when people listen to it, other people can catch them and stuff. So I'm kind of just like I would call myself like a medium podcaster.
What you
I'm
should
like,
start doing when all of this stuff kind of with the COVID thing and all calms down is what you should start doing is you should start bringing people that you've had on this podcast, like maybe do like a happy hour with all of them or something like that.
The Clubhouse, bro. That's what I've been.
Perfect. Yeah, just bring them all together, and then you can kind of make connections with different people, different industries, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, you've brought, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people together in a group. And that is, 10, 20, 30 more connections for another person. And you're changing the world.
It's cool because like not only like can you like create opportunities for like yourself, but it's like cool when you can create opportunities for other people.
Absolutely.
Like one of the coolest things that I've found doing this is that people like I do this, and then people I do this with, I become like friends with them, and we talk and everything, and they have their own specific life and stuff like that. Like this kid Cadence, I know he's a big like Twitch streamer kind of thing, and he doesn't really do games. He's like, I mean, he sometimes does GTA and stuff, but he's more like a musician, I guess, kind of thing. And he was talking to me about that. He was like, I bring people together, and it's almost like the new Twitter, I can't remember what it's called, Sheets or something like that, and then the classrooms and the Clubhouse, where you like bring certain people together, like 8 to 10 people, and they just talk and they market. It's like almost like a convention over social media. It's a great idea.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, so you could really be like the mediator kind of thing and just bring people together. It'd be sick. It's
weird. What's really weird, the weirdest part of it is like every day, bro, I have numbers text me that I don't really have the numbers anymore talking to me about it. And like, or I'll go out and someone will like talk to me like from like Pacific, and they'll be like, hey, just listen to your podcast, great stuff. And it like blows my mind.
That's
like,
great.
I didn't realize, so when I was at home, it's really hard because people who knew me there would like talk about it. But it was weird when I got back here and people were like talking to me about it. And I was like, I was doing this like accidentally on Podbean last semester,
And now it's where it is,
Yeah, and it's still growing. And the cool thing that like another reason I wanted to interview you or conversation with you is I like helping other people do things like that too, because I've had podcasters. How many have I had on? 2 or 3, just strictly podcasters, and a bunch of people who have never done a podcast before. And I like getting them comfortable speaking. Yeah, it's a cool thing.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty comfortable like speaking and stuff like that. I just think getting my feet wet in the podcast game, so
it's a skill, bro.
We'll see what happens.
There's nobody like Papa Joe Rogan that's so good at it.
No, he's the godfather.
Really?
But I've been pretty inspired by. Have you watched JJ Redick's podcast before?
Dude, honestly, I have not watched the full thing, but I've watched his like clips. I watched the one with him and Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, that was a good one.
He's got really cool episodes. He gets really cool people on there. Like, it's just an interesting podcast. So that was really what kind of like inspired this whole like idea. But we wanted to do like a theme. I wanted to do like a theme. I didn't want to just get on and talk, because I feel like a lot of the best podcasts are like themed or they're like guest driven. Like, I feel like what drives your podcast is like, you do a great job obviously, but you bring like interesting people on, and then they just drive the show. Like, they drive the ship, you know what I mean? So like, we want to get people who can ultimately drive the ship, and we want to get it to the point where people aren't watching our podcast because they want to listen to me talk all day, or Ethan or Trent or Dalton. What they wanted to listen to is, all right, who's going to be the underdog this week? Who are they going to talk about? Who are they going to bring on this week? And some of the people we have written down, we have like a rough draft little list. Some of the people we have written down, and some of the people we've talked to about coming on the show already, just after having like 1 or 2 meetings about it, it could be pretty cool. So stay tuned. What are you like interested in doing? Like, besides like obviously podcasting is something, but what is like your interest like for life, and like what are you like really interested in pursuing after college and things like that? Okay, yeah, I got you. After college, not a lot of people know about this. It's kind of been something that I've kind of like worked on the down low, but one of the main things that I'm working on right now is just trying to get myself prepared to play overseas after college. One of the reasons why like I continue to work so hard and have worked so hard for so long throughout these like unprecedented times is ultimately I'm trying to like play professionally. And so through a lot of different research and things like that, I found out that I'm actually eligible to become a citizen in Israel. completely new place, new country, never been there, but I've got family lineage out there, and that makes me eligible to get a citizenship out there. So my plan right now is I'm working on getting my citizenship there. I'm actually going there over the summer to just kind of get some stuff put together and stuff like that. I also got an internship out there. So really I'm trying to play there for a few years after I graduate, and then try to make a name for myself out there, and then come back to America and like see what I could get into. I mean, I feel like the biggest thing for me and like people in general is a lot of people, you know, they just get out of school and then they go get a 9 to 5.
Yeah, you're not trying to do that.
And like for me, I just want to like follow my passion, because I don't want to be one of those people that's like, all right, well, I might be working X amount of hours and I might be providing for my family, but like if I'm not enjoying life, I'm not enjoying life. Like I need to be enjoying life. I need to be in a setting where I'm like, all right, like this is truly what I want to do. And obviously I'm not done playing. I feel like there's a lot. I feel like I have a lot left to give to the game and a lot left to prove. So I'm going to use the rest of my college career and hopefully my pro career to show that. And then when I'm done with that, I feel like most of my connections and most of my network is within basketball and within that little industry. So yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see like where that goes, whether it goes into coaching.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I've seen a lot of people like opening up their own gyms and starting training facilities and stuff like that. So I'd love to look into something like that. So we'll really see. But you know, I think I just can't see myself like not being
around
in the
basketball.
Basketball. Yeah, it's just like been such a big part of my life for so long, and I just kind of want to follow that. That's
the cool thing about sports, and the interesting thing about sports is that it's hard to get your feet out of it. You know, one of the biggest things I've been struggling with is, you know, I struggle with injuries and everything like that.
Right.
And then starting this podcast, it's like kind of shifted my priorities in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, having a girl back home and having school, you know, trying to keep my grades really high because obviously law school is still in my realm. But like doing something that people actually like want to like tap into and having like people listen is kind of, it's really hard to juggle what you love, because I love football, you know, but it's like there comes a time where you're like, where is your life heading, you know, and where are you driving it? So I think by you saying that you don't want to leave the sport of basketball, if you make that decision for yourself, it's going to drive your life. You know, it's going to be easier for you to do it, than you just falling out of something. Because I think if you put your mind to anything, you can do anything. You know?
Sure.
And that's one of the biggest things that I say to people is like, if you want to do something, do it, bro.
Absolutely.
People are scared. People are fearful, and that's why people hate on other people doing things. I think it's because they're afraid themselves.
It's their own insecurities, exactly. Like for me, it's just I'm not afraid to go play professional basketball in another country. I'm not afraid to like do things that other people would, you know, consider outside of their comfort zone. So realistically, like going to Israel is going to be, you know, a different experience
for sure.
For me. I know that. I know it's culturally going to be a shock. I know I'm going to be away from a bunch of different people that I grew up around. Obviously, like my family, I'll be away from like my friends out here, friends from home. There's going to be nobody in sight. But I mean, I've just like wanted to do it for so long. Like I'm not scared to do it. And I'm actually excited for it. I'm hoping that everything kind of pieces together well and I get the right opportunity. Appreciate that, bro.
Especially since like you have like plans and goals, but you don't have strict like I have to do this in my life, you know. And not saying professional basketball, you're saying that you're saying I'm gonna do that, you know. So I think you're just like, I want to stay in the basketball community. I want to do something, but I want to give back. I want to maybe open a gym, do something like that.
Yeah, so you can't play forever, you know.
Yeah. But you can be around it forever.
Absolutely.
And so by you not holding yourself to such strict priorities, you'll be able to do something magical, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I think mentally you just got to, like, especially it's so hard when times like this, when, like, I feel like us, especially, like, young college men are so, like, future-driven. Everybody's like, I want to succeed. I want to succeed.
Definitely.
I want to succeed. Like, shit, you have night terrors at night, like, you know, like everybody wants to succeed so bad, but the people that really separate themselves are just the people who like aren't afraid to just go get it and then just use their resources. Like for me, I'm not, you know, the best basketball player in the world. I'm not the biggest, strongest, fastest, tallest, but like I know my niche, right? I know my game, and then I also know my network, right? Like I know how to brand myself, I know how to network myself, and I'm never afraid to like reach out to people, stuff like that. So I think the biggest thing is people just got to use their network and know their surroundings, know who they know, and I mean, you never know. They say it's not the grades you make, it's the hands you shake. So
that's an awesome quote. I think you'd be good at marketing or market managing almost in a sense, like being someone's like marketer. I think you'd be good at that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I've thought about that too, just doing like PR kind of thing. My mom does PR. But I really want to own a business. I want to own a couple businesses. I really kind of want to be like, I'm kind of a hustler. I've always been a hustler kind of growing up. Like I've always just been like a hustler, and especially with basketball, I've always been like a grinder because, I mean, to be the player I am, like you can't be that type of player unless you put the work in. So I've always just kind of worked hard. So I kind of want to have little businesses, and then I want to take money that I make like playing basketball, put that into a business, and then take money I put from that business and invest it. Like I want to do multiple different things. I don't want to just be like a guy that has one career and they're like, oh, okay, you're a lawyer, okay, you're a doctor. Like I want to do a bunch of different things and just kind of see where it goes.
That's where the money is. The money is in. It's cool. I was watching Dave Portnoy. You know him, Barstool Sports president.
Nah, I don't know.
But he was basically saying, he was like, he's big on TikTok and everything, and he was basically saying that he like some advice is like create, like don't worry about like strictly money when you get like when you're starting something. Worry about creating something, you know. And I was just talking to Kenyon's friend actually from back home, who's a videographer, Mickey Duntley, and he was basically telling me that like we were talking about like starting something, hustling and working for free for a while is honestly one of the greatest things you can do, because it's about the hands you shake, you know?
Right.
And I think people nowadays are so fearful of not having money in their pockets. People are so like worried about what their next meal is coming or where the rent money is going to come from. But, you know, I'm lucky enough to have a supporting cast around me, my family, my friends. But, you know, I always tell people, if you have an idea, right? There's probably at least 10,000 other people who have that same idea, right? And there's about 100 people out of that 10,000 who are going to actually go attack on that idea. And there's about one person out of that 100 who's going to make it on that idea.
Right.
And so your odds are pretty good just in starting something, you know? And so don't be afraid, you know?
For sure. Yeah. And another thing you got to remember is like the way society is right now, it's almost been like, it's weird. I don't know if social media has created this narrative, but it's almost like trying to do something or working hard or going after like what you want is like not cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's it's almost like people are just afraid to fail, so that they would just rather like sit back, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, for you, for people out there who are just go-getters, like I can't imagine just sitting back and being cool. You know what I mean? Like it's always like
it's weird.
And it's like Kobe. Like Kobe used to always talk about how like he would always be back in the gym after that game. You know, it wouldn't matter what happened, back in the gym. Like it doesn't matter if there's interviews of him winning a game and him just being pissed at the podium, like job's not finished. So like you just kind of have to have that like that Kobe mentality, or even that like Nipsey Hussle mentality, where like the marathon continues, like good, bad, indifferent. Like you just got to keep going and keep striving for what you want, because I mean, most likely the next guy's too scared to. So
yeah. And I don't know if you're naturally like this, but I'm not naturally like a go-getter. Like, I mean, in a sense I am. Like I grind, like I have this internal desire to want to do things, but I'm naturally afraid to fail, you know, and I'm naturally afraid.
Everybody is.
Yeah, and I'm naturally a perfectionist. So I don't know, you can tell me if you're like this. I have to force myself to let myself fail and let myself learn and let myself like feel like the hurt that comes with the greatness, you know. I'll give you an example for kicking. If I like I worry about the one shank I have rather than the 15 great balls I have.
Right.
Or I like when I'm doing my intros, I fucking take 60 turns. I'm like, fuck, dude, like when I mess up one word or something. And I think that actually internally helps me drive harder and stuff like that, but it also hurts me a little bit.
Yeah.
And so my natural, like what I'm trying to do right now, and for those of you listening and you guys should try this too if you guys are like this, trying to balance being, you know, trying to be great and get better every day with not being your worst critic, because I naturally am just tearing myself down. You're stupid. This is not going to work.
You
know,
you can't
like
talk to yourself that way.
No.
But I mean, I see what you're saying, like having that balance of pushing yourself, but also giving yourself a little bit of credit, right?
Yeah,
that's what
definitely.
you're kind of trying to talk about. Yeah, I think it's really hard, especially when you are that type of person that just like strives for perfection all the time. And I mean, it's hard too, because I feel like social media has really brought this out of people. Is like they see somebody else doing something and they're like, shit, you know. But realistically, I think the best way to like balance that and give yourself a little credit is just to like be around people who are real with you. So not necessarily like the person who's always going to tell you how good you are
or how
like,
bad you are.
Right. Like for me, right, like a lot of the times, like I don't like talking to my mom after games, because whether I have a good game or a bad game, my mom is always going to tell me I did great, because she's my mom. Yeah. And it's like I could have 30 points or I could have had the worst game of my entire life. I could have maybe played for 2 minutes and my mom would be like, great job, honey. Like, and like that's not ultimately like not necessarily, which it's not what you want to hear and it's not what you need to hear. So I would keep like, for me, like I keep a close group of friends where like they will always tell you like what you need to hear. And when you accomplish something, right, and you might be like, oh, like that's not enough, they'll give you that credit, they'll give you that pat on the back, be like recognize that, you know. So I think that's really important, is just having your close group.
Listening to your friends. It's one of the hardest things to do, is let go of something that's dead or deadwood, a part of you, because a lot of us, you know, especially 21-year-old kids, a lot of what we are is deadwood. And it sucks to say that, because a lot of what we need to do is let go of that shit that is holding us down and eat, like grow. That's what being a young man's about. It's growing into being a man is. And so, you know, when someone recognizes something that you internally know is hurting you, like for example, maybe partying too much, something, you know, I mean, obviously right now, but just in general, partying too much, doing things that are detrimental to your health, not doing that one thing, not doing the reading you need to do, not going to practice,
just discipline.
You know? Someone be like, hey, get your shit together and start doing this, you know. If you don't have that, man, it's really easy to become soft and become woke and become all these people who are like, I'm great even though I'm overweight and all this stuff, like don't hurt me, you know. Like it's like, if you don't have anyone saying like, hey, this is something that you can fix and you should strive to do, and if you put your discipline into it, it's really easy to become this social media hating other people culture.
It's all about like accountability and just like your own inner discipline, and you just got to find what motivates you. I mean, because realistically, like like I said, like having friends is great, but it's got to come from you. So I mean, if you have it within, you can get wherever you want with it.
What do you think like the most driven you've ever been is? Like, what were you doing? Like, maybe it was basketball, maybe it was something to do with school, maybe it was just like something in your in your like youth. Like, what was something where you felt like absolutely driven? You're like, I'm not going to stop until I get this.
I would say when I was getting recruited in high school, that was like a really serious time for me. That summer going into my senior year, I think I was in like 13 or 14 different states, just traveling around playing in different tournaments and different camps and stuff like that. And you know, I didn't have like the cookie cutter high school career that, you know, didn't have like every accolade in the world, and I wasn't Gatorade Player of the Year and stuff like that. So I wasn't like a super highly touted guy coming out of high school, but I knew I was good enough to play at the next level, regardless of what anybody else thought. So I told myself, like, I'm not going to stop working until I get where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of translated into like my freshman year when I was, not getting a lot of playing time, and just kind of learning the ins and outs of college basketball. That year where I wasn't really playing much, but I just worked my ass off, to go from a guy who like never really played to like getting recognized as the most improved player at the end of the season. That was like a really big time for me. And I was just locked in because I knew like, all right, I wanted to get that offer. I wanted to get that little bit of playing time, or I wanted to elevate myself almost. So those are two like really big times I can think of where I was just like really focused
and driven.
Yeah.
So there's a thing. Did you watch the movie Soul?
I have seen Soul.
You know when they're talking about like being in flow, and
Right.
it's almost like spiritual. I can't explain how you find those things that you love, and I can't explain why you find them, and I can't explain why you get in those moments, but I can explain it happens a lot with things that you're passionate about. I have countless times been in a conversation like this where I'm not even here anymore, and I'm like,
You're just in the zone.
yeah, and my questions are phenomenal. I'm hitting every note, and you'll find as you start your podcast and stuff, there's an art to it, dude. It's not just talking. You got to figure out how to engage with your not only your guest and get them speaking about themselves and engaging, but also engage with your audience. Because I mean, even if your audience is not just you or anyone, even if you start a podcast and your audience is 10 people, right? That's 10 people that you need to engage with every week.
Right.
Say you're Joe Rogan, that's millions of people you need to engage with. And it's, as it grows, you start getting a little more stressed.
Yeah,
but with,
for sure.
I found like the best times is when you're always in that moment. You know?
Absolutely.
Sports are the perfect example of that. I can't, I don't know if you do anything like draw or anything like that, but I create music, and that is one of the things that I've like when I'm feeling something and I'm like feeling it and I'm in the moment, time just like stops but also speeds up. You know?
I feel you. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I know what you're talking about. Sometimes I feel that way when I'm just like if I'm hooping and I'm having like a really good game, like. I get that way sometimes when I'll play pickup against like some tough competition or something like that.
Yeah.
And, I'll be like a little bit nervous, or I'll be like, I've never really played with a guy like this caliber before. So sometimes like when you feel like you're around a bunch of like really good players, like I'll be at like a run or something, and I'll just find myself like not even thinking, just playing. And like me and Ethan will talk after the run, and he'll be like, bro, like what was that? Like some of those shots, it looked like some of those shots were crazy, and like how do you not think about that? Like,
yeah.
And I'm just like, I just kind of throw it up, and eventually I just don't really think about it. So I feel what you mean, like just being in the zone, being locked in, and then it kind of just takes a life of its own.
So the one thing about pickup that organized games don't give you, and I've actually learned this through reading and everything like that, is creativity. You're not going to create a wild move in a game. You're going to create that wild move in pickup, and then you're going to be so comfortable with doing it that you will do it in a game.
Execute, yep.
It's so I think the problem with children's sports is you got to find the balance between competitive sports where they're organized and competitive sports when they're not organized.
Like freedom, yeah.
And I think basketball is the number one example of that in America, because I think really anywhere, soccer mainly for other places, but football, it costs a lot of money. You can go play 7-on-7 at the park and stuff like that, but it's not like basketball. You have a basketball, you have a park, you got to pick
10
up
guys
game.
and go.
Yeah, and you don't even need 10 guys really. You need at like minimum 3. 1, honestly. You need 2 people.
Go play one-on-one, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's why we're so dominant, one, at basketball, and also football is like given to kids, but like I think that's why we're so dominant. If you're gifted the athletic ability and you have a park near you, you can get good at basketball.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like basketball is one of those sports where like the reason why I really I feel like have connected with it more than others is basketball is something that you can constantly get better at, right? And like really there's not a lot of excuses that come with it. Obviously, athletic ability, strength, size, the uncontrollables is what a lot of people call it. Is realistically like having those uncontrollables are things where you can't control those things. You can't control how big you are, how tall you are, how strong you are, how fast you are. But when you eliminate those uncontrollables with work ethic, that's why I love basketball is you can always get outside and dribble for 5 minutes and you get better 5 minutes a day from dribbling. Or you can always get outside, put some shots up. Mm-hmm. And that right there, like if you shoot and dribble and do those things that you can't control, sometimes work ethic will eliminate those uncontrollables. Mm-hmm. Like a guy like Steph Curry is a good example.
Yeah.
So,
bro, Steph, he changed the game. I hated him for a while because I was a LeBron fan for a while. That was my little phase. I just enjoy basketball now. I've kind of in the last few years, I used to be really big in basketball, and now I've gotten really big back into football. I kind of go through phases.
You go back and forth.
I think COVID kind of hurt it because when I'm usually into football is not when I'm usually into basketball. They kind of like overlap, but then like as soon as football ends, basketball becomes big again.
Right.
And
now they're like the same time.
It was like basketball was like big, and then football started, and I was like, oh, But back to what I was saying. I digress. Steph, bro, he is. Hate the guy. Don't really anymore, but he is phenomenal.
Unreal,
dude.
Man.
And Matt, you said you didn't know him, but he's from the Bay, and he'll just be like, I'm watching the Warriors game, and things like that. Yeah, I'll just watch. I'm like, he is the epitome of if you don't have it, make it, Yeah. I mean, 6'3" is still not short, but.
No, but he's not the strongest.
Not LeBron.
He's not, he doesn't have any of those. You don't look at Steph Curry and be like, fuck, he has something I can't teach. You know? I mean, his shooting ability is pretty off the charts. Yeah. But he's had to work for that. You know what I mean? And he's had some advantages. Like his dad played in the NBA.
I think he was gifted too.
But he has some type of natural ability to shoot the ball. But he has put up thousands and thousands of shots. Like I know for me, like people will be like, "Oh, bro, like you have a strap. How do you shoot like that?" Well, like it's
practice.
It's like, bro, like I'm in the fucking gym and you're on the couch. Like it's there. Yeah. It's just a difference. Like from like there's days where like. Shit, Stoller's closed. We can't get in, like, because of smoke or weather or COVID or some other bullshit that's going on, right? But the first thing that me and Ethan, like, our first reaction is, oh, shit, like, we got to find a way to get in the gym. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, when they say, oh, the gym's closed, they're like, all right, well, fuck, I'm just going to lay in bed and watch Netflix, or I'm going to, do homework, or I'm going to just, like, take the day off. And we're just like, fuck that. Like, we got to find a way. We got to find a way. We got to find a way. Because we know that if we don't find a way, all those tens and thousands of other people that are out there
will find a way.
And then those are the people who are going to get where they need to get, right? Like, it's like, if you're not where you want to be, like, don't be chilling so much. You know what I mean?
If you're not where you want to be, take a look at where you're at and where you're comfortable with.
Right.
Dude, and to an extent, because we are college athletes and this school's not necessarily easy, time management is...
By no means is it easy.
No, yeah, dude.
By no means.
My whole thing is, like, I'm not trying to, like, talk about myself, but I'm just naturally smart, so as long as I put in the work, it's just I have to get myself to put
No, you are naturally... I've seen you in action.
Yeah, and Randall.
You went off in that accounting class, bro. You went off.
But it's like you gotta... I gotta put the work in, If I don't put the work in, I'm not gonna learn. And one thing I hate about Zoom, I'm gonna digress and get all pissed off for a second.
You're gonna hate on Zoom real quick?
Is Zoom classes is because it's not the engagement that I need, bro. I don't need fucking a professor talking about their own work for an hour. Yeah. That happened to me.
Or talk about what's on the Moodle page. I feel like the biggest thing too with people who are really smart, which I mean I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm like one of those people, but what I've seen from just people that are really, really smart is a lot of times those Zoom meetings with class are all stuff that they could like teach themselves. You know, like you're
Yeah.
probably one of those people that could turn the camera off, not listen to a single fucking thing the professor says. Professor posts the homework from today, and you just go online and do it, and figure it out, and get 100.
The problem with university right now, I think, and college right now, is a lot of it is you read and teach yourself, and then we'll talk about it.
Right.
And that's like how you learn a lot, especially in my specific field. But
yeah.
dude, my mom used to yell at me for last semester because I used to be like talking to her on the phone or something. She's like, "Aren't you in class right now?" I'm like, "Yeah, but like I have to read and write about it, and then like I can like I'm gonna teach myself later."
Right.
And then one of the biggest arguments I make with her is like I can just learn this stuff for free at the library, dude.
Right, and that's the crazy thing is a lot of teachers' grading system is based on participation.
Yeah.
And like what you're doing in class. Like for me,
Yeah.
40% of my grade in one class is just me logging in onto Zoom. That's 40%. So you're telling me I'm paying whatever I'm paying. Obviously I'm on scholarship, but I'm paying whatever I'm paying to log into Zoom. That's my grade.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
and not only that, dude, it's like, because here's the thing: a good teacher and a good professor can make a bad professor seem horrible,
bro, horrible.
And so when you get those good professors, because I have a couple, everybody wants to take their class. Everybody wants to be in it. I don't necessarily get A's when I try. You know, that's the craziest thing that I've learned about college in my brain. Because I'm not like a fucking genius. Like I'm smart, but I'm not like absolutely just better than everybody. There's a lot of people in this world. There are a lot of people in this world who are just geniuses.
Brilliant,
I am not one of them. And like when I like tried, and maybe I'm like smarter now and I'm more articulate now, but like, and I get a B plus, like, dude, that shit irks me to the like,
get
core,
pissed?
bro. Yeah, and so, but like, it's necessary, man. I need to. That's a fail for me, you know, and that's my level of failure. Maybe a C is for someone else, a D is for someone else, you know. But B's are my fail.
You know your standards,
and so I need
exactly.
to work to get better.
You hold yourself to a high standard. I respect that, whether that's in school or football or whatever you
Yeah.
got going on, or even the podcast game. Maybe you want a certain number of ratings or subscribers or whatever motivates you.
Tough.
Just find that motivation and keep going.
The tough part about this is that it's one, it's kind of taken a life of its own, and two, it's I gotta find my level of where because you always want more, man. You're not gonna not want more. You think Joe Rogan doesn't want more?
You can't be satisfied ever.
No, and to an extent, people like me and you who are go-getters that we were talking about earlier, we're not ever gonna be satisfied.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that I try to explain to people when they say capitalism is the enemy. Like, maybe this system, but capitalism drives innovation, because if you are fucking... So let's say you create an idea, right? And it's an idea no one's had before, so no one can really buy it or sell it because it doesn't really fit into a formulated area.
Right.
And you create it like Amazon did.
Yeah.
As soon as you get to the top and nobody believed in you and you worked your ass off, why the fuck are you gonna stop there, dude?
Right. Nah,
you're gonna keep doing it. And they're like, well, he has $200 billion. What? It's like $200 billion doesn't make him happy anymore. $250 billion will make him happy
next
now.
Yeah, it's just levels. It's weird. It's funny you mentioned that, because I was actually thinking about this the other day. I've saw this quote. It was on one of my trainers. His name is Nate Bowie. It was on his story, and the quote was talking about something where he was saying, like, don't quit, because if you quit, like, there's going to be there were times 5 years ago where you were thinking about quitting because you were begging to be where you're at right now. And it's crazy how that whole mindset thing like switches, because when you're in high school, or you're like, all right, I want to get to the college level, and then I'll be like, I'll be happy, I'll be satisfied, you know, like I told myself that in high school, and now I'm in college, playing in college, and I'm like,
you're not satisfied.
I'm like, I want to play pro, I want to play pro, and now I keep telling myself, like, all right, once I make it to the pros, like, I'm going to be cool, I'm going to be satisfied with myself, but then I feel like once I get to the pros, there's going to be a whole other level of things that I'm going to strive for, whether it's, you know, getting a bigger contract, or whether it's getting on a winning team or producing a certain amount of numbers, whatever the case is, there's just levels of production in every single thing that you do where you're naturally just going to want more. Everybody wants what they quote unquote can't have, so that's what causes you to chase after it.
Dan Bilzerian was on the Joe Rogan Experience a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And he was saying, like, there's levels to happiness. And the levels are, you know, so say all you want in your life is a Lamborghini, right?
Okay.
You have a car and all you want is a Lamborghini. The level you're going to be at when you get that Lamborghini, as opposed to someone who's getting their 10th Lamborghini, you know?
Right.
You give a person a 10th Lamborghini or you give a person their first Lamborghini, those levels are absolutely different.
Completely.
And so the levels to happiness, you know, it changes when you get to a certain amount of success. So what you strive for is bigger and greater. And I think that's just natural. That's basically the Pareto distribution. So it's basically saying that, do you know what the Pareto distribution is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like as you lose more rapidly, and as you win more rapidly. And a smaller percentage has like all the money.
Right.
And like, so like I think it's like something like 1% of the people have like almost all the money. The 2% of the people have like half of that, and then it just keeps going down.
Yeah.
And so most of the wealth is in the 1%. We all know that. We all talk about that. And it happens in every single thing. Like Joe Rogan, he's the 1%. He gets the majority of the podcast views, which is crazy because like if you really think about a podcast, it's just people talking, right? So for one guy to have almost all of the views, it blows my mind. It's like music, you know. Hip hop gets the majority of music played on the radio. Certain hip hop artists have the majority of the hip hop music played on the artist on the.
It's like a monopoly kind of thing.
Natural monopoly, yeah. It's. I don't know how to fix it because I'm not smart enough, but I also know it needs to be fixed because I am smart enough. I'm at that level.
I feel you. You don't know how, but you know it needs to.
Yeah. So back to you though. Are there anything that like you're really interested in besides like obviously you're going to start this podcast and basketball, but is there anything like, I don't know, let's say snowboarding or anything something weird, little hobby that you're into?
I'm really into this is crazy, but I'm really into fashion.
Really?
I've gotten into it over the past couple of years. I mean, I've like always been dressed well because my mom's pretty woke, so she would she would dress me well growing up, but I've really taken a new interest into style, and I like how you know, like you go on Instagram and you see like the tunnel pictures of like players coming out to their NFL games or their NBA games and they're all dripped out and stuff like that. I've really taken an interest in like brands and learning about like fashion brands and kind of figuring out what brands I like and stuff like that. I love to go shopping and just like look at different brands or like see different people's different styles and stuff like that. It's something I might want to get my feet
delve into.
Too. Maybe a little clothing brand along the way, you know, stay tuned. But
you know what? I'm just going to do it. Fuck it. If you guys are listening today, don't steal my idea. What do you think about me doing merch? Or you're not going to steal it, but what do you think about me doing merch, right? And calling it and having like hoodies and stuff and like having it saying like demands or demanding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just be like in like cursive print.
See, what I was going to say is when I launch this underdog thing, eventually when it takes off, I would do merch for it. Like, I think for your podcast, like you should get merch for sure. I think merch is part of the podcast.
I know. I was thinking about it, dude.
I mean, like look at the Nelk Boys. The Nelk Boys is a really good example, by the way. This is a really good example of like what we're talking about right now. Look at what the Nelk Boys do, right? I mean, we can just look at like back how they started. Obviously, they're huge now. Every time they set foot somewhere, everybody knows them. But back when they started, it was just a bunch of kids fucking around and pranking people, right? Just like, but like they were videotaping it and putting it on YouTube, just like this is a podcast, right? But the Nelk Boys make shit tons of money, right? And like, okay, maybe YouTube pays them or whatever, but if you look at the majority, like have you ever tried to buy a Full Send shirt or anything like that? Like if you go on their merch drops, like I just wanted to go on. I went on one time just to fucking see what it's like.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't going to buy anything, but I look at it and I'm like, wow, like shirts, hoodies, anything you can possibly imagine, just for saying full send on it, is sold out within minutes.
It's insane.
It's insane. So they make all of their money just off their merch, right?
Or the majority of it, yeah.
Okay, majority of it, right? But like the Nelk Boys, they could probably not make another video for the rest of their lives and just drop merch, and they'd probably be fine at that point because they've built their brand to a certain degree. So
yeah,
the way you're building this up, right? Continue to build that brand. Eventually, merch could carry you, bro.
Yeah, my friend who's kind of my marketer. Again, it's weird doing this. But he always says he's actually get hoodies and things like that. And I was like, I'm gonna think about it. It's because it's really hard to like do something that you didn't think you were gonna do. You know. I'm glad you guys are setting up plans and having meetings about it because it will help you a lot in the long run. Because I downloaded an app and started talking to people like I was talking on the phone, and it's turned into something I can't even describe.
Yeah.
And it almost has like it's almost like a priority, you know?
Right.
But yeah, merch is crazy because like who has some crazy merch that I was like gonna say, like. Every single time you go to concerts, bro, merch is just being sold. Like, I think it's like, how much money do you think they actually make? Like, say you're at a concert, like a Gunna concert, right?
Right.
And it's in, what is Moda Center? Is that what it's here? So it's in Moda Center. How much do you think of their revenue that comes in is based on merch? It's got to be a good
lot,
amount, right?
Because they'll have like, what they'll do is they'll put up like shirts or hoodies that you can like only get at that concert. Like for example, when Travis Scott was on the Astro World tour, the Astro World hoodie, I mean that shit was on, like you couldn't get that shit unless you went to the concert.
Yeah.
So I know like a lot of that stuff is like cool, and like in the moment when you're there at the like looking back, you're probably like, oh whatever, like I don't need that hoodie. But when you're there, you're like, that shit's tough.
Dude,
I want that. You know?
Yeah.
So like I mean, merch can really carry you throughout.
Do you think that? What do you think the next like step is for social media? Like, obviously, you're not fucking in, like you're not a like owner of Twitter or anything. But what do you think? Like, where do you think we're headed? Like, almost like, because we're seeing Clubhouse we were talking about earlier, and we're seeing these new forms of like conversation and podcasts are blowing up.
Yeah.
What do you think the next social media is going to be? Almost like a FaceTime kind of thing?
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. There's so many different things that social media can do. I don't know if you've seen what's that Netflix documentary that I'm thinking
Oh,
of?
The Social Dilemma.
The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
That Netflix documentary absolutely changed my perspective on social media, and I think to some degree like that is where we're heading. And I think social media's algorithms and stuff have just ultimately created like a mind of their own, an absolute monster.
A fucking monster.
So really, what the way social media is really going wherever people take it, because realistically we're creating something that
creating
eventually
itself.
is just going to create itself, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. So in terms of social media, I feel like I can't even answer that, because social media has gotten to the point where like I created an Instagram account maybe when I was in like 8th grade, and like I didn't think it would be the way it is now, you know? So
I had Snapchat in 7th grade. I remember I downloaded it because someone told me, and my name is still like Collin. I'm not going to say my name because I don't want all these guys adding me on Snapchat, but it's like numbers.
Yeah.
And it's like, you
didn't take your username seriously. Now you can't change it.
Yeah,
I did the same thing.
Because Snapchat is like the one you can't change,
which is weird.
It's weird. I accidentally, so my number in basketball was, so I'm just going to give one of the numbers. My number in basketball was 25, and I accidentally clicked 24. So it goes one of my favorite numbers and then 24. And it's just like this number that I don't really care about. And I was like, Kobe. But yeah, dude, I think the next step dude, there's going to be AI like existing of itself. Like, I think there's going to be AI you can communicate with and talk to, and they're going to create, like, one day I really do think you're going to be able to walk into like a certain store and be like, all right, I want this type of like, maybe, I don't know, like mood or algorithm for your head, and the AI will formulate it, and then you like get to like implant it in your head. And I think like that's how we'll communicate one day. Is like,
that would be absolutely
like
nuts.
Neuralink, bro. Like how Elon Musk is doing, like Neuralink. It's like fusing AI with human brains to like fix Alzheimer's and stuff. I think one day you're gonna be like, all right, I have depression. I want to be chronically happy. So you'll put a little implant and it'll make you happy.
That's unbelievable.
I think that's what's gonna happen.
If that happens, man, God help us.
I think one day somebody said that. I think it might have been Elon Musk on Joe Rogan's podcast, but he said like maybe humans were just here to create the AI.
It's possible.
Hey, Marvel, I just created a movie for you, by the way. Fight the AI human models that are taking over.
Marvel, tap in.
Tap in, Marvel. But yeah, I digress. Do you think that one day we'll have something like you're sitting right here, right now?
Yep.
Do you think one day, because I think this is how it's heading, like you'll just be able to pop up as like a hologram almost, and like we could do this, like you're here, you'll look like almost like you're here,
like Star Wars,
but you'll be able to like be like, I was almost thinking like beamed, bro, like being beamed places, you know,
so you can see like everything you're seeing right now, but I'm a hologram instead of,
well, maybe it's even you, bro. You can just like like what is it called, it's like Star Trek, beam me up, Scotty, you know that thing where they like get beamed and they go places,
yeah.
like that.
Shoot, that would be absolutely crazy if they had something like that. Technology is absolutely gone mad. So I can't even say I'd be surprised if something like that happened. But I agree with you. AI is like the next, like it's almost like the next like ecosystem to run this planet almost.
Yeah.
Because humans have taken technology and social media and all the things that we've been able to create, and absolutely blown it out of proportion. Like when we were kids, we used to go play outside. Like now we see kids on
COVID wear 2 masks and all this stuff.
there's like 6th graders who follow me on Instagram.
That's
probably
so
younger,
weird, dude.
honestly. So what I'm saying is like, I'm really nervous for our kids because I want to raise my kids like how I was raised, you know, like the old fashioned way. But it's going to be really difficult when phones and everything get involved because it's all happening younger and younger and younger now.
What is your biggest fear?
Oof. My biggest fear, I would say I got a couple things that one of my biggest fears is losing my parents. I think everybody thinks about that. Everybody knows that day is coming, especially once you start to realize, like, all right, I'm getting into my 20s, 30s, 40s. Yeah. So, yeah, the day that my parents are gone, that's going to be – I really am dreading that day. I'm fearful of that day. And then the next thing I just think that I'm fearful of is eventually when I become a father, I want to be like the best dad to my kids. I want to be like somebody like that, you know, can look at their dad and be like, yeah, my dad was the shit. Like I look up to my dad. My dad's my hero. Like I want to be almost Superman or Spider-Man or whatever your favorite superhero is. I want to be that towards my kids, and I want my kids to view me that way. So my biggest fear is not being that for my kids.
Yeah, that's one. It's hard to understand like what it's gonna be like to be a father,
right?
Because you don't, like, everyone's like, it changes your life,
dude. I don't want to know right now.
Yeah,
but I do want that someday.
Yeah, it's just interesting to think like one day there's gonna be something that matters like way more than you'll ever matter
than
to yourself again.
Yeah, eventually, like, people realize what their purpose is in life, and a lot of times people's purpose is just to create a better life than they had for their kids. And like, I had a pretty good life. I had a pretty good childhood. I have a pretty good life. I'm pretty blessed. But I want to almost create something for my kids that's even better than what I had, and that's part of the reason why I work as hard as I do, you know? Yeah.
I think you have a good mindset for that, you know?
For sure.
I think being a important role, being a driven role, having a driven focus is exactly what you need to be when you're ultimately a father one day. I have a bunch of people that I know who are fathers, and they're like, dude, I was not ready, but now I got to be focused, and I got to be driven, and I got to be absolutely on my shit, you know? And so that's one of my biggest fears is like having a kid right now, because like I want to do right by my kid, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I agree. Just kind of being that.
Well, man, I think that's a good way to end it.
That's a great way to end it.
Episode 45 with Noah Lewis. If you guys did enjoy this, be sure to check out his podcast when it is launched. And always come back, listen to the Demanders, listen to Collin, demand some answers. Listen to me and my new guests. I got some interesting guests coming on in the next few weeks. Thank you guys for being so supportive. Don't forget to follow me on my social media and stay up to date with the show. See you guys next week.